Hi, everyone, and welcome to this week's edition of the DSS Break. Thank you so much for joining us today. We are really grateful to have you here live with us every week to talk about data science experiences and best practices with the leading data professionals in a 15-minute break. I'm Anna Anisin, CEO and founder of Data Science Salon, and I'm streaming from our headquarters located in the heart of Miami, right next to the Design District. And on today's DSS Break, I have a pleasure of sitting down with Nina Zumel, VP of Data Science Practice at Wallaroo. And the company has built a platform to deploy, run, and observe machine learning in production. And Nina is going to tell us more about what low ops machine learning is all about and how it can help data scientists move their models successfully into production. Thank you so much for being with us, Nina.
Thank you for having me. It's great to be here.
Awesome. No, it's really awesome to have you. And you are a VP of Data Science at Wallaroo and the co-owner of a consulting firm specializing in data analysis and statistical research. Can you tell me a little bit about your background and how you got to where you are today?
Sure. Well, I actually have an bachelor's degree in electrical engineering from UC Berkeley and a PhD in robotics from Carnegie Mellon University. And after I finished my PhD, I worked for a couple of years at SRI as a research scientist, and then went into industry, working in an analytics capacity for a lot of startups and small companies. For example, I was doing work on dynamic pricing for online retail systems and other analytical work like that. I did that for a few years, and then I think about 15 years ago, my colleague John Mount and I started a data science consulting company called WinVector LLC. We do individual data science projects for our clients. We also do a lot of data science training and education. John Mount and I are the co-authors of a book called Practical Data Science with R, which is now in its second edition. So we're pretty proud of that. If I may say. And it was actually through WinVector that I started working with Wallaroo. We had an engagement with Wallaroo because one of their clients needed some additional data science support. And Wallaroo is not a data science company per se. And it was while working on that project with Wallaroo and their client that the CEO of Wallaroo, Vit Jain, sort of realized that it would be very useful for Wallaroo to have an actual in-house expert on data science practice in the company, in Wallaroo, because that would help them to build a better product, since we are trying to build a product that is, in fact, very friendly to data scientists. So he asked me to join, and here I am. And as they say, the rest is history.
Well, that's an awesome story. Thank you so much for sharing. And I know that at Wallaroo, you and your team have built a low ops machine learning platform. Can you talk a little bit about low ops machine learning? Because I know, machine learning operations is a hot topic right now, but I haven't really seen low ops around as much. So maybe you could tell us a little bit about that.
Sure. Well, sort of the easiest definition of a low ops data science organization is one where basically the ratio of data scientists to ML engineers is very high. There's a lot more data scientists than ML engineers. And the idea is that the reason that that some organizations may not have a low ops environment is because data scientists are not necessarily very self-sufficient at the production side of the whole ML process. So the idea behind Wallaroo is to make data scientists more self-sufficient at deploying their models into production and monitoring them in production, which are activities that traditionally they've needed a lot of support from ML engineers with. And our value add is that if we can make data scientists more self-sufficient at interacting with the production side of the process, then ML engineers can actually have more time to focus on their other important aspects of their job without having to do a lot of support for the data scientists on the things that the data scientists can do, and that the ML engineering part of the house doesn't have to staff up so heavily, because each of their ML engineers will be much more productive and efficient at what they do. And so are the data scientists, actually.
Well, that makes
and-
a ton of sense.
Thanks.
Go ahead.
Thanks. I was just going to say that another aspect of having good low ops ML is, of course, that we are trying to reduce the time it takes to deploy models into production, because the way things currently are in many organizations, it takes a very, very long time. And that's, as I said, not efficient. So we're trying to make it more efficient.
Right. And speaking about models not getting into production, I know that most models don't make it to production. We hear that all the time. So why do scientists really struggle with this, really moving their models into production?
Well, I think at least currently the way it is now, data scientists, depending on their background, of course, they generally, or they often don't have the training or the mindset that makes them comfortable in a production environment. They're often not actually computer scientists. They're often coming from another field like statistics or some other analytical field. And they're very well trained in the part of the process that comes before fitting the final model. That is data exploration, framing the problem, feature engineering, exploring different kinds of models to help determine whether or not they solve the actual business problem, which is the whole reason that they're in the organization. But once it comes time, once they've got that model, they generally don't know what to do after that, right? So just sort of to take an example, when data scientists produce code in the process of doing what they're doing, they tend to do it from a more exploratory mindset. They're not thinking about it from a software development mindset. So, they're not focused on delivering code that's robust or production ready. They're just trying to answer the questions they're trying to answer, which is why once they come up with a model, in many organizations, it's up to the ML engineers to take over the models and the code artifacts and make them more robust and production ready, and actually deploy them into the organization's production infrastructure. And our goal is to build a platform that allows the data scientists to interact with these production systems in a way that's more intuitive for them, so that they, as I said, can be more self-sufficient and can take their models from development farther into the production process with less hand-holding, so to speak, from the ML engineers, which will make the entire process much more efficient, much faster, I think. And then in addition, we also want the data scientists to be comfortable monitoring and observing their models in the production stack as well.
Right. Well, you just answered my question about how you guys help data scientists in their machine learning production journey. That makes a ton of sense. It just sounds like you make the whole team more efficient altogether. So it sounds like a huge value add. And what do you see as a main trend for ML ops and low ops machine learning in the next 3 to 5 years? I know it's kind of been trendy for the last couple of years now, and what is kind of the next thing for this?
Well, as you say, there's currently a lot of focus on trying to build tools to make that transition from model development to model deployment much smoother. But in my view, a lot of the tools that are out there and a lot of the platforms basically assume that the data scientist is willing and able to sort of become more familiar with the ML, the way it's done in ML engineering and ML ops now.
Right.
Which there's nothing wrong with that. But as I said, some of them are not trained in that. They're not as comfortable. It's not as familiar to them. So even if they are willing, and everybody should be willing to learn new skills, sometimes that's going to be a little bit of a hard learning curve. So I think that you're going to see that there's going to be a trend in trying to make that transition process of model deployment something more intuitive and more familiar to the data scientists who are actually building the models. So there's going to be, I think, more emphasis on the user experience of data scientists in this entire process, and not just ML engineers.
Right.
I think there's also going to be a recognition that production ML isn't just, or productionizing models. The production process isn't just putting the models in production, but also monitoring them once they're there. Right. And monitoring them for things like, has there been concept drift in the ecosystem? Does the model need to be retrained because it's no longer valid for whatever reason? Is the data still coming clean? Are we getting data that we expect? Is the model making predictions that we expect? And a lot of the stuff is these are questions that the data scientist is very intimately involved in trying to answer or troubleshoot for. And so I think it's very valuable to have the data scientists able to interact more directly with the models in production in order to help troubleshoot in a more efficient manner, rather than having to do it kind of indirectly, as they often do now, by sort of offline processes and offline analysis, so to speak.
Right. So your platform does both of those things, observing and also deploying.
Yes.
Awesome.
Yes. We try to make it easier for data scientists to deploy their models, to define the model pipelines, and some of the validation rules around those model pipelines that will go into the production system. We try to make it easier for them to observe their models. That is, we do actually have the ability right now to monitor for the indications of concept drift. So you can see signs that it might be time for your model to be retrained, and to set up certain validation rules on the inputs and outputs. Again, to make sure that everything is going as expected. And we try to do this all in an environment that is friendly for, comfortable, I should say, for data scientists. For example, we have a very good SDK through which the data scientists can interact with the production systems through a notebook environment, which is a more comfortable environment for many data scientists. In addition to having, the regular API for more programmatic access that ML engineers would expect. So we're trying to make a platform that's comfortable and intuitive for sort of both sides of that production process, data scientists and ML engineers.
No, I love that, because I feel like, there's more and more. I mean, at least in our community, we've seen a huge growth in the machine learning engineer. So I feel like there's definitely been more and more of them, because there's just more support needed on the data science from the data scientists, So I feel like this is a great, solution to kind of bring everybody together and collaborate in a good, efficient manner, right? And one last question that I had for you was about your name, Wallaroo. Do you know what's behind that? It's I like I love the logo and everything. Is there a story or anything behind the logo and the name?
Our founder and CEO, Vid Jain, is originally from New Zealand. And
I see. That's what it is. That's awesome. My husband is from Australia.
Yeah, you'll have to ask him the details, but yes, I believe that this is why we are called Wallaroo, is that New Zealand connection.
Well, I think it's really unique and definitely different from any other, data science platform that we've seen, and the logos that they have out there. So kudos to being original. And thank you so much for joining us today, Nina, and for sharing your experience. It was really a big pleasure to have you. We're really excited to have Wallaroo at Data Science Salon Austin on February 21st and 22nd, actually next week. I can't believe that it's coming up already. If you guys want to see more and actually meet them in person, you could join us next week or tune in virtually, because we're going to be streaming live from wherever you are. So you can actually check the details in the link that we're going to share. And you can apply to attend for the virtual part. We're pretty much sold out for the in-person, but you could tune in from wherever you are. And I look forward to seeing some of you there in person as well. And thanks again, Nina. It was really a pleasure to speak with you today.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Thanks, guys. Have a wonderful rest of the week.